Hey, welcome again, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today as we talk about a day in the life of an MBA student. We are super excited you're here. We have some great panelists ready to chat with you. But before we do so, I want to introduce myself. My name is Sarah Dewar. I'm the program manager here on the early career team at Forté. I am among a team of amazing colleagues when together we have over 25 years of experience in MBA admissions and recruiting, and nearly as many years here at Forté as well amongst our team. So we are really excited to bring this great content to you in this early career or pre-MBA stage. Perhaps you're MBA curious, or maybe you're a little further along in the MBA application process, but we want to let you know how we can help you fuel the future of business. So if you are new to Forté, thanks for being here. We're glad you found us. If you are familiar with us and the work that we're doing, welcome back. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. For those who are new, just a quick introduction. Again, Forté matters because we are doing the important work to fuel the future of business. We are doing this through a powerful network of influential companies, leading undergraduate and graduate business school, which you'll hear from a few students in a moment, talented women and individuals such as yourself, and then pioneering donors who make content like this possible. Again, if you are part of our community already, great. If not, welcome to our amazing community, a large community of women rising in business. Again, we are doing the work to help you reimagine what's possible. So again, whether you are very new to the MBA process, or maybe you're just looking for what's next in your career at this point, we're giving you the resources, helping you accelerate your career by connecting with business schools, mentorship, leadership training, business education that might be able to get you there or get you closer to where it is you'd like to go. In addition, we are helping make the MBA a financial reality via the Forté Fellowships, which maybe some of our students will talk about in a bit. Otherwise, you can learn more on our website about the financial support available through Forté. Because we are a network with very influential donors in our community that make events like this possible, I do like to share a mission moment of someone. Natalie here did her undergrad at a partner school. She then went on to attend a forum event, a pre-MBA event, something similar to this, a little bit different. We'll talk about those in a minute, and then graduated from one of our partner schools. So again, the programming and the opportunities that Natalie was able to experience via the partnerships that Forté has, all made possible from some of our incredible, generous donors. If you are in this MBA curious space, or you think you are looking to submit applications in the near future, we do have some flagship application prep programs. You can learn more about those by scanning this QR code, but there's 3 different options, or flavors, as we like to call them here. And the big driving factor for which flavor is right for you is going to depend on what your application timeline is. So if you are applying right now, currently, you are looking for kind of step A through step Z of the application process, and you're looking to get that information on your own in a self-paced program, the on-demand program is going to be right for you. And our deadline is October 1st. So you better act fast and sign up for that program if you are looking to get started right away with the application tips. If you're looking more so for a January deadline and you want kind of a quick boot camp type hybrid option, a little bit of in-person programming, a little bit of self-paced work, really ideally you have some things ready for your application, but you want to take it from a B to an A+, you would want to definitely check out our MBA Launch Hybrid program. Again, this will be ideal for individuals maybe looking this cycle at round 2 or January type deadlines. And then if you are very early to the process and you want a little bit more help, our live cohort option or flavor runs February through September. It's 8 months long. We meet weekly. Happy to welcome you into that cohort of about 500 to 600 incredible women navigating the application process. Again, you're welcome to learn more about those by scanning the QR code there. And then we will have some upcoming events where we are also talking about these. So Here's a look at some of our events coming up. Again, no need to jot all these down. You're welcome to scan that QR code, visit our website. You can sign up for all of them right away if you'd like. A few of these are information sessions where we will talk more about the MBA launch programs, kind of what your options are, which program is best suited for you. A little bit later on, you'll hear from those who've navigated the process with our program and how it was impactful to them. We do also have some forum events coming up, particularly next week, our Forté MBA Forum. This is an opportunity for you to really explore what the value of an MBA can be. Gives you a chance to engage with our community, hear from some of our partner schools, and really hit the ground running by interacting with school reps and get some information on the application you're building. So take a look at our upcoming MBA Prep virtual events. Lots of things that our team is hosting you for. So again, we hope to see you at one of these in the future. We are almost to the good part of today's panel or today's session. And I do want to give a special thank you to our sponsors for today's event. So Georgetown McDonough, UNC Keenan-Flagler, Vanderbilt Owen, and then Alliance Manchester Business School. We do have panelists from these schools that will be chatting with you about their experience as MBA candidates. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now. We should be all set. And panelists, if you're ready, we'll just jump right on in with introductions. And I'm going to go in order of my screen, if that's okay. Sarah, I'm going to start with you.
Sure, happy to start. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Kearney. I am from Durham, North Carolina originally. I went to UNC Chapel Hill for undergrad as well as at UNC for my MBA. In undergrad, I studied journalism and mass communication, and then directly after undergrad, moved to New York City and started a career in advertising. So I was in account management and ad agencies for several years in New York, and then I moved back to Durham and was at an agency there. And so I helped lead campaigns for like a lot of major brands, Neutrogena, Choice Hotels, Stop and Shop, Anheuser-Busch, and in my advertising agency experience, I worked with a lot of really great clients, and a lot of that experience inspired me to want to go to business school. So at Keenan-Flagler, I'm part of what's called the Better Dean's Fellows, which is a small group of fellowships as well as a Forte Fellow. And then I also am part of several organizations on campus. The marketing club. I'm part of our MBA Student Association, and part of the board for a group called Blue Cup, which I might talk about later if it's one of our questions. And this summer I interned as a marketing associate at Kenview, and I'm looking to go into brand management and marketing after graduation.
Awesome, Sarah. Thank you. That was a great introduction. Really started us off on a good foot. So Mari, I'm going to turn to you if you want to go ahead and jump in and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for spending some time with us today. My name is Mari, and I'm originally from Minnesota. I attended undergrad at Butler University in Indiana, where I studied Spanish and marketing, and I was also a member of the women's swim team. So being a student athlete was a big part of my college experience. After undergrad, I moved to Spain for 3 years, where I worked for the Spanish Department of Education. And I always tell people that moving to Spain was truly one of the best decisions I made in my life so far. It really brought my Spanish to a whole nother level. And it also made me realize that I wanted to work for a global company. So when I came back to the US, I did just that. I worked for 3M, and I worked on their LATAM team, and then I also worked for another company called Neogen. So most of my experience was in product management. And really, I'd seen where a lot of my managers were and directors were. And one thing that they had in common is they all had either an MBA or some sort of graduate degree, whether it be something more technical. And so I really wanted to get my MBA just to kind of amplify my career. I felt like it could help me achieve both my short-term and long-term career goals. I looked at a lot of different schools and felt like Vanderbilt Owen was the right fit for me for a variety of different reasons, and I can talk about that later as well. I'm a second year at Vanderbilt Owen, and we have concentrations. I'll talk about, kind of what you can focus on, like a major, if you will. but doing a little bit of a pivot. I'm focusing more on operations and analytics, also strategy at Vanderbilt Owen. I'm involved in a lot of different organizations that I can talk about as well. And over the summer, I interned at Nissan. They have their America's headquarters in Franklin, Tennessee, and I was actually working in their after sales supply chain division. So it was really, really exciting and fun. I got to use a ton of Spanish every day, which was a big goal of mine. And I actually will be returning there. So thank you for being here.
Great. Next up, Alicia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Reynolds. I am at Georgetown McDonough School of Business in Washington, D.C. Originally from Connecticut, went to Dickinson College in Pennsylvania for my undergrad, and after school, immediately moved to Washington, D.C., where I started my career in the talent acquisition executive search arena. So I was in the industry for about 10 years. Most recently was working as a director of client development for a small executive search firm. Realized I sort of reached this juncture in my career where there really wasn't any upward mobility. So that really drove my desire to go to business school. And so I am a career pivoter. So I am a second year here at Georgetown McDonough School of Business. This summer, I interned at JP Morgan Chase in their rotational program, where I was mainly focused on corporate strategy, which was really interesting because I was given exposure to different areas of the business. And this opportunity was something that I didn't even know about until I started business school. So I'm happy to chat about that later as well. But here at Georgetown, very involved. I'm a student ambassador within admissions, also a consortium fellow, heavily involved in clubs as well. So definitely looking forward to chatting about that later. But thank you all for being here.
Great. And Soteria.
Hi, everybody. My name is Soteria. I am in the Alliance Manchester Business School, but I'm Ghanaian. And my journey is a bit different. I started off in healthcare and nutrition. So I have my undergrad degree from the University of Ghana in nutrition and food science. Then I have my master's in public health from the University of Westminster. And I'm doing my MBA in Alliance Manchester Business School in the UK. Traditionally, when you think about MBAs, the UK doesn't really come to mind. Most of the schools you think about is the US, but I'll be happy to chat with anybody or just talk more about my UK experience and how the UK and the MBA works. My background is also very diverse. I've worked a bit in nutrition and health. I own my own nutrition and wellness firm. I've been running that for about 7 years now. I've worked with FMCG, food manufacturing. I've done a little bit of UN consultancies here and there. So I say I'm a multi-sector girl, but I feel the MBA was what was gelling everything together, understanding leadership, understanding talent, negotiation, what goes into funding, everything. I felt the MBA was what I needed to bring everything together. So I decided to do that. And it's been it's been an answer to the question I had before I started. So happy to be here. Thank you for being here as well, and happy to chat.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Such warm introductions. And I hope our attendees can kind of see themselves in you in the different circumstances. And, at this early stage of deciding if an MBA is right, maybe your experiences as they translate as a future student or a place where our attendees might look to be in the future could really help them. So let's get started with some questions. Attendees, if you do have questions, you're welcome to drop them in the Q&A feature. We will try to get to those at the end of our session, pending the time that we have. But please drop those there, and let's just jump right on in. Panelists, I'm going to come back to you to start us off again, Sarah. What does a typical day look like for you amongst courses? You gave a list of a bunch of clubs that you're in. What does that really look like for you?
Yeah, I will say, at least, within my first month of first year and second year definitely are looking a little bit different in terms of what they look like. I think maybe the other panelists might agree, but pretty much the consistencies are, for UNC, at least in the mornings, we'll have classes. I think each day, typically there's either like 2 or 3 classes, or depending on your schedule, it might be different. Like on Tuesday, Thursdays, I only have 1 class, but on Monday, Wednesdays, I have 3 classes. But in my first year, we had to take all of our core classes. So those were a little bit more loaded up in terms of like 3 and 2. During the lunch, there's a dedicated lunch hour for us. And so those are typically dedicated to the career clubs running career labs. So second year students are running labs to help first years in their respective industries in terms of recruiting and networking. And then after, kind of after classes end towards the end of the day, there might be other kind of like career or networking opportunities, company presentations, happy hours, like networking events that all happen, particularly in the heavy recruiting season of like September, October, November. And then, Fridays, UNC doesn't have classes. But those are often like filled with other events or like workshops and things to help students. And then evenings, doing assignments or meeting up with your friends, or sometimes other like Thursdays and Fridays might be more fun social events. But pretty much no 2 days are really the same, but there's always plenty to do.
That's great. Thank you so much. So Terry, I'm going to ask you, just because you are in a different region, maybe is the day in the life of your experience as an MBA student different?
So not too much different from what Sarah said. I feel like it's pretty much the same. What would be different is we do a bit more of, for first year, it was divided between lectures and consultancy projects that are driven by working in teams and groups. So your days are split between going to class and sitting down and learning the concept and meeting up probably after lunch. We also have a dedicated lunch period, or meeting up after a full day's work with your team, working with your clients on your consultancy project. So we don't have a lot of the happy hours during the week, that over the weekend, almost every weekend, there's something happening where we can catch up. So it's pretty much similar to what Sarah said.
Amazing. Alicia, Mari, anything super different at either of your programs or institutions?
I would say kind of similar, I think Sarah hit the nail on the head that first year is very different than second year. And I think the priority right when you get started with your MBA is just kind of getting into that academic stamina, school stamina again. For some people it's been several years since they've, been an undergrad and taken classes. And so our classes, and I'll get to this in a different question, are 90 minutes. And so that was kind of an adjustment just to have that focus, because a meeting of 90 minutes is a long time. And so I remember like we do mods, which are 7 weeks. I was really focused on just kind of like the academics and the classes, and then recruiting later. And then second year, you're kind of involved, and it's a lot of helping first years as well with, their recruiting process and potentially your recruiting process as well. And it's really how involved you want to be. I've tried to be really intentional. I've been someone, I'll admit, in the past who's filled my plate too full and been very overwhelmed. And so, finding those 3-4 different organizations that I can be involved with, that I feel like I really add value and bring value to me, has been really important my second year. At Vanderbilt, we have 2 different types of clubs. We have concentration clubs. And so those are, you can have an operations and analytics club, you can have a consulting club, finance club, and a lot of those are networking, with consulting, it's focusing on cases. So they meet during the day or in the evenings, but then we have our affinity clubs, and those are kind of more of those fun clubs. So I know we have like a golf club, we have a cooking club, we have like a LATAM business club. So it's kind of just depends on how involved you want to be.
Yeah, that it's so great to know that it's similar but different, and probably something that you explored or something you were maybe looking for in your school selection process. So I'm going to move on to the next question. And Alicia, I'm going to pose it to you. I know everyone kind of mentioned this community, whether it be through happy hours or career connections or just being in mods in class. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that community looks like in your program? how was it getting adjusted? Does the school help you make those connections? What has that experience been?
Yeah, so I would say Georgetown is extremely collaborative, and diverse. I think our class was about 48% international, which is really great because it really adds to the overall diversity on a global scale. And so with that, there are various clubs, student organizations. One thing that we do, I'm not sure if it's similar with other schools, is we have 4 cohorts in our class. So you are assigned a cohort. They say it's done randomly, but I think that there's some sort of formula that they have. But once you're broken out into those cohorts, those are the students that you are taking those core classes with. So I'd say coming in, those are really going to be your classmates and peers that you're going to lean on, do those initial group projects. Each cohort has a representative, a social representative. And so you're really involved not only in the classroom, but on a social scale as well. So I'd say that's really, been key. I think when you come into joining those clubs is something that was really important to me. The Black MBA Association was the first club I joined, and now on the board as their director of client development. So I'd say that was really a great way to make those connections and collaborate. And then, just to balance things, the Career Center is a really great resource as well, with the recruiting, because you come in and, you have lots of different things on your plate. And so they're really there to ensure that you have everything you need to succeed, along with the program office. Another thing that Georgetown does is every Thursday during the school year, from 5 to 7, we have what we call KEGS, which stands for Keeping Everyone at Georgetown Social. And so it's really, time to socialize with your classmates. There's food, drinks, music. We like to have a club sponsor each KEGS every Thursday. So that's also a great opportunity to get to know not only your cohort mates, but your entire class, first years and second years as well.
That's awesome. Keg sounds like a great time.
It is, yes. It's a very fun. And I'd say my first year, I didn't miss any kegs. So yeah, it's definitely a good way
It
to
sounds like
socialize
good
and get to know people.
integration into the cohort. And that's one thing I've noticed a theme in all of you mentioning. As second years, you're helping the first years, and there's dedicated times for that kind of support. What about alums? I mean, soon some of you will be alums on the other side. So right now, are you utilizing alums in your program? Are they playing a role in the classroom? Kind of what does that look like? And Sarah, I'll turn to you if that's okay. And then if anyone else wants to contribute.
Sure. I will just say we have our Thursdays called Carolina Casuals, but I think Kegs is a way better name. So
I think way better. I think that wins.
But in terms of alumni, yeah, so there's like a bunch of different ways, some alumni come back through the clubs, we have kind of our alumni database through our career connections, but also just like looking for like UNC alums on LinkedIn and reaching out that way is very common if there's like a certain company. A lot of the companies who come and present on campus, usually those, people who are presenting are typically UNC alumni. And then like this week, we actually have our alumni like networking forum, which is like the career services company organizes, and that's to bring all the alumni back from different companies, and everybody kind of goes and can network with whichever kind of companies they're interested in. Keenan Flagler alumni also, does stuff in different cities like Raleigh. They're hosting an alumni event in Raleigh next week, I believe, for, just alumni to come together and network, and then, invite us to, of course, go there too. So lots of different ways to connect with alumni, in short.
Great. Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in with the alumni connections that you're able to make? Go ahead, Sotir.
Yeah. Yeah. So for Manchester, they're very intentional about integrating alumni right from the start. So we have guest speaker series of alumni coming. We have certain courses like exploring decision making, where you have alumni coming to teach some of the courses. You have career services inviting some alumni back. So the structure of the course is such that alumni is really integrated, but it's usually older alumni. So I barely see alumni from maybe last year or the year before that, but you see alumni from class of 2002, class of 2010 coming back, giving back, lecturing, and the cohort is fairly small for the full-time MBA. So for MBA, it's a mixture of the full-time and global MBA. So when you're speaking to an alumni, they could be a full-time MBA, they could be a global MBA, and that brings a whole different experience and a whole different perspective, because most of the global MBA alumni will be from maybe the Dubai Center or the Shanghai Center or the Hong Kong Center. So they bring in a very different worldview, and it's really interesting connecting with them. So I think it's a bit more integrated through daily activities and career service events than just connecting with them on LinkedIn. But in addition to everything Sarah said, and just integrating with the program, yeah.
That's awesome. And I think it makes a great way for a transition for us into our next question. We're going to talk a little bit about like the actual classroom experience and the coursework. And so, Teria, you mentioned that some alums are coming back to kind of teach coursework and maybe some of the softer skills and negotiation, maybe not the I don't know, accounting terms or finance things that you have to do, kind of those hard skills. But I'll go to you, Mari, if that's okay for this one. What do you think candidates should know, or what do you want them to know about your coursework or your classroom experience as an MBA student?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I think number one is just the different class sizes at different MBA programs. So I'd really take that into consideration. You know, are you looking for really large class sizes? Do you want something a bit more intimate, you know, where you really know all your professors? Whatever works best for you, that's a really personal decision. I was looking for kind of something in the middle, not too small, but also not this huge lecture hall. I would say at Owen, classes range from maybe 30 to 50 students. Some of those core classes can get a little bit bigger with our other like Masters of Finance and Masters of Marketing programs that sometimes have those core classes with us as well. But for me, it's not too overwhelming, and I feel like I've gone to lots of different office hours of my professors. They know me by name. You know, I see them in the hallway, and I had them last year, and they remember me and everything. I have great relationships with them. So I think that's like a really big thing to consider. As far as at Owen, we do different mod systems. So I mentioned this before in my introduction. So essentially a mod system is like a quarter. So we have 7 weeks of classes, and then we have 1 week of finals. And so we have 4 mods in a school year. And so it goes really, really quickly. I think, when I talked about like that school stamina, when you only have 7 weeks, you kind of have to adjust very quickly because all of it's new, right? You're trying to balance a new schedule, getting involved, a new social life, the academics of it all, starting to think about recruiting as well. And school is a big part of course, the MBA experience. And so I think, just to be transparent with everyone, there's definitely pros and cons of the mod system that we have. I think some pros are that you have the ability to take a lot more classes because they're only 7 weeks, and then you get to take other classes. And also if there's a class that you're kind of struggling with that you don't love, you just have to get through it. It's 7 weeks, it's not an entire semester. And I'd say like just maybe a con or just kind of the truth of it all is that because it goes so quickly, you kind of have to stay on top of things. They're covering things at essentially an accelerated speed. So if you're in your whatever class, a managerial finance class, and you didn't really understand the concept that day, like make sure you reach out to your TAs, to the professor, because they move on then to the next topic, and you can fall behind really, really quickly. Another point that I'd add is at Owen, we typically take 4 classes. each mod, with the exception of mod 1, where we take 5 classes. So that kind of adds to the intensity of it all. And then as each mod goes on, this is kind of like undergrad, you can choose more classes. You have more of those electives depending on what you want to concentrate in. Some concentration options are, like I said, I'm doing operations and analytics. There's strategy. You can do marketing. We have healthcare in Nashville. Healthcare is a really booming industry, and so we work with a lot of the different clinics or hospitals here in Nashville. We have, I think, tech, entrepreneurship. I'm sure I'm missing some, finance. So kind of whatever route you want to go down. But I think that's kind of the main details that I wanted to give about classes and what that course work is like.
Anyone else want to add on that? Go ahead, Alicia.
Yeah, one thing, just, as you're thinking about your MBA, because I remember being there in your shoes and sort of contemplating, what that would look like. I think there's this misconception that you have to be, an expert in finance or accounting, to go get your MBA. Personally, I did not have a quantitative background. I was an American Studies major at a liberal arts school for my undergrad. So, I had that sort of imposter syndrome that I realized a lot of individuals in my shoes also had. And so I think, it's important to know that each program, and I'm sure all the schools represented here, will give you those resources that you need to succeed. I know at Georgetown we had some pre-MBA courses to get us up to speed in accounting and finance. But even when you're here going through those core classes, you have your TAs, your professors that will have those office hours to really help you through those courses. So that's something that I want to reiterate. If you have any questions, and happy to chat with anyone who maybe doesn't have that quantitative heavy background as well.
That's a great point, Alicia. And there's a question in here, the chat. I'm going to kind of pivot to that, but I want to set it up a little bit. You all have mentioned working your work experience. So Thierry, you mentioned maybe working with some of the global students. Like, you're not just limited to the students in your MBA program necessarily. And everyone, I think, Mari, you mentioned working with students in others' master's programs as well. So everyone is bringing different levels of work experience, varying lived experiences, different educational backgrounds, right? Alicia, liberal arts background, Sarah, journalism. What can you say about like the composition of those classes, whether it's big or small? How is the work experience that you're bringing into the program helping you? How are your lived experiences showing up in the classroom, or how are you learning from those of others in your class? And I'll open it to any of you. I know that's kind of a big question.
I
Go ahead, Mari.
can start. Yeah. So, just kind of my personal journey. I had 6 years of experience post undergrad before getting my MBA. And I do feel like there is kind of this sweet spot. I mean, it's personal, it's kind of depending on what everyone's done, and when they feel like they're ready. But I just reached this point in my career where I felt like I had enough experience that I could apply it to my MBA, but also I didn't have like too much experience where I could, still agile and can still pivot if I wanted to as well. So that was really personal. I'm not saying 6 years is the right amount of time. That was just the right amount of time for me. And I will say, like, I mean, it's from day one in our classes. We're talking about mergers and acquisitions, and I had recently gone through an acquisition at the company that I worked with, and so it was very real. And there's a lot of context behind it, and so I just think that real world experience, no matter what it is, if you're doing a total 180-degree pivot, or if you're just looking to amplify your career, that's totally fine. But I think having a few years, whatever is right for you, of some of that experience, it really just puts things into context and makes things you're in a classroom, and so you're like, oh, I've lived through this. I understand this. I also think from a recruiting standpoint, like, just for full transparency, there are some companies that require, maybe 3 years or 4 years is kind of what I've seen of work experience post undergrad. And so, just I would look at maybe some of your target companies and see if they have any of those types of requirements, because I think that's very, very real. But definitely from a classroom perspective, for me, like, that 6 years and that specific experience I had working for a few different companies, global companies as well, going through an acquisition, like, that has really helped me kind of understand things better in the classroom.
Yeah, and I would imagine your time in Spain as well
Yes.
also helped, that lived experience and understanding what it would be like to be not an outsider, but someone who's new and different from others. Does anyone else want to kind of chime in on what this experience has been like for you in your class?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I would just say that because of how different so in the Manchester MBA, Alicia mentioned that her group is about 45% international students. For us, it's about 98% international students. So almost everybody in the cohort is coming from a different country, a different experience. So before you even get into the sessions where you are learning or you are discussing something academic, over lunch, over coffee, over tea, you realize that you're learning by just listening to somebody talk about their experience at work. You are learning by just listening to somebody talk about how it is during December in their neighborhood, or you're learning about architecture, you're learning about so many different things. So for me, the biggest learning for my MBA has actually happened out of the classroom. um, I just like Alicia mentioned, I didn't come from a quantitative background. I'm a health girly, public health, nutrition, telling people eat this for PCOS, this is what you do for diabetes, this is what you do for reading a bunch of articles on Monjaro. I'm a very qualitative, heavy girl, but here I am in the MBA trying my best every day to figure out mergers and acquisition. Is there a deal? Is there no deal? Do you sell? Do you not sell? So the academic bit has been amazing, and I have learned so much that I didn't know before coming into the MBA. But the true learning really happens out of the classroom, well, for me and for the way the Manchester MBA is structured. Over coffee, just catching up with somebody. It could even be a mergers and acquisition explanation, but somebody's using an example from India, so somebody's using an example from a company in the US and a company in South Africa. So it's it's been a very good experience. And I think one thing I would also, going back to two questions, things you have to consider when you're choosing the MBA or whatever, is if you're somebody looking to learn beyond the classroom, you would want to look at MBAs that have a very diverse group of people, because once you get yourself into a program that has so many people, so many opinions, so many experiences, you realize that you are learning every single day. And those are the things that really would set you apart, because at the end, everyone has an MBA. Everyone did almost the same courses, whether in the UK, the US, but there's so many things that you would learn just from interacting with so many different people.
Yeah, I love that you specifically hit on most of your learnings are coming not from the textbooks and not what you're doing in the classroom, but as you learn from others, whether it be someone helping you understand the mergers and
Exactly.
acquisitions concepts, or maybe, Alicia coming from a non-traditional background, didn't have finance or accounting. Maybe someone in your class was able to use their experience to kind of meet you where you are to help you through that. So I love that. You all are doing a really great job of kind of expressing how collaborative and how supportive your programs can be for you. I want to move on again, kind of another good transition here. You all have listed, I have 4 pages of notes here of all the things you've said you've been involved with, and the clubs and the organizations and the kegs and the social and the happy hours and all of these things. How do you manage it? Like, how is it possible? I know, Mari, you mentioned first semester or first mod, excuse me, you have 5 courses. So it really is like super, super intense. But then recruiting starts right away. You want to get to know everybody. You want to join all the clubs. Like, how is it possible? You still have to take care of yourself. You have to eat right. You have to do your mental health, all of these things. So Sarah, I'll turn it to you. Best time management skill, recommendation. How are you making it work?
Um, still figuring it out.
Second year, still working on it.
But as our accounting professor said, like everything has trade-offs. And so, I would say the MBA program is like kind of a crash course in prioritization, between your professional, commitments and goals there, being social, building those relationships, all the classwork, of course, too, like really trying to kind of honestly on a day by day basis, really figure out what's the most important thing today? What do I need? Have I been locked away studying? And so I really need some social time. So yeah, I'm gonna go to Bob's, which is our like local MBA bar. Tonight. Or, like if there's a bunch of if you've got a lot going on and there's a company presentation, you look at all the company presentations happening, really taking a moment to realize, okay, do I really want to go to that? Is that going to benefit me? Or, am I just considering going because everybody else is going? Like really taking a moment to look and figure out what's best for you, and not just because everybody else is doing certain
So you
things.
have to manage FOMO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm that's my worst quality is that I have serious FOMO. So, I have to like really take a lot of time to figure out like what's important to me. And then looking at the hours in the day and figuring out how I want to prioritize each day. For academics, UNC is pass fail. So, that was a big mindset shift for me. So, for some of the academics, a lot of the times it was, okay, do I understand this material? Am I turning in this assignment? It's good, not great, but that's okay because I have this company presentation or a coffee chat to prepare for. Um, and then, I don't know how everybody else is doing it, but just whatever systems you have to keep yourself organized, whether it be an enormous planner, a Google Sheet, or any other kind of system, like use whatever tools you have to keep yourself organized because there's always things to be doing and you cannot do it just by relying on your own brain.
Thank you for that. So Terry, I see you're off mute. I don't know if you wanted to contribute or if you're just hanging out on mute.
No, I feel like it's pretty much the same. I feel the MBA is teaching you how to prioritize. That's the biggest thing for me when it comes to time management. Like you just have to know what's more important in this moment. Is it making sure that you finish this assignment, or is it making sure you do your best to your ability and not overdo it and use the rest of the time to research on a recruiter that is coming? What are your priorities at that point? And in year one and year two, your priorities change a lot. In year one, your priorities are very academic focused, and you're just trying to crush it and make sure you're getting the grades in and everything. But as year one dies down, you realize that, oh, maybe I haven't done enough socials. I haven't met enough recruiters. I don't know enough about these companies that I would like to intern for or work full time. So it's just about prioritizing and making sure that your experience is fitting the puzzle, the different pieces are coming together nicely.
Great. Thank you.
You
Mari?
Yeah, I would just add one thing
Yeah.
to that, just to be candid with everyone. Like I remember my first 2 weeks or so, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get through this. Like I felt so overwhelmed. I was working super late at night. I felt like I didn't have weekends at all. Like I remember some people were going to the tailgates, before the football games. And like, how do you guys have time for that? Like we have all this, all these deliverables due on Monday or Tuesday. And so I was very stressed. The imposter syndrome that Alicia talked about was very real. I felt like I was comparing myself to others, not just in like a recruiting standpoint, but like someone was like, "Oh, I already finished the stats homework." I'm like, "Gosh, it's not due for another week." And then I feel like I'm behind. And so I think it's just like really being on your own path. We all have kind of our different paths and not comparing yourself to one another. And I will say like those first few weeks were overwhelming, but each week after that, it got easier and easier. And it's not because school got easier. It actually got more intense because then recruiting came into play. It's that I got better. I was adjusting better. I thought I had good time management skills before starting my MBA program. It's now I've gotten to a whole nother level, with my time management skills. I'm more organized. I use Outlook. Like I put everything, including my workouts, my lunches, everything on my calendar, all my deliverables. And so, there's just those soft skills. You really learn to perfect those and you get better and better. And you're just like, oh, I can do this. Like mod one, which is the most intense mod, it's already done, So I think it's just knowing what path you're on and knowing that, each week is an accomplishment, finishing all those deliverables for each week.
I
Yeah,
want to touch on something that you
the
mentioned.
Outlook time
Oh,
blocking, I will say, is very something I'd recommend as well.
yeah, especially if your classmates can see they're trying to schedule a project meeting with you, but then you have it already blocked out. Like, respect your own boundaries. And if Outlook has to be the way you set your boundaries, then let Outlook do that work, you know? Mari, you mentioned something that I think is really, really important of how overwhelmed, and Alicia, you talked of this, of the imposter syndrome kept setting in. You have to think like the folks that are in an MBA program are used to being top achievers academically, professionally. And so to come in and feel this like, oh my gosh, I'm not as good as them. They're done already with this homework. They've somehow figured it out that they can go to the tailgate or they can go to kegs or they can meet, they know all these recruiters or already have their internship secured. Like that is something that you'll have to probably constantly remind yourself that your journey is your own and where you are is where you're supposed to be, and that really comparing yourself to others is going to take that joy away because you're going to just focus so much on what they're doing, not what you are doing or what you should be doing. And I think it's really important to remind all of our attendees and you all that obviously you belong there. You were there for a reason, and the AdCom believed in you, the school believed in you, and so kind of trust that and take time to be in the thick of it, and really work on those soft skills: project management, time management, setting your priorities, setting and keeping boundaries. Those are all big time things that will be beneficial to you post MBA as well. So thank you for that reminder. We're getting kind of close on time, so I want to get into a few fun-ish questions, if you will. And anyone who wants to chime in, I'll go to you first, actually, Alicia, and then if the others want to chime in. What has been the most rewarding activity, the most fulfilling experience that you've had so far?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that I am an admissions ambassador. So essentially, I serve as a student representative here in admissions for Georgetown. And for me, it's just a very fulfilling experience. I remember when I was looking at Georgetown as a prospective student, and I really felt like I had a connection with a student ambassador at the time. So for me, that was really important to solidify my decision to come here. And so I know how important it is to give all of the prospective students and incoming students as much information as possible. So that's something that has been really rewarding. And we have welcome weekend in the winter. And I remember vividly this past winter hosting a big group and really making those connections and seeing their faces here on campus in the fall is just the best feeling. So for me, I'd say that probably has been the most rewarding experience I've experienced thus far.
Yeah, like a true talent acquisition professional, right? You're
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And then of course, that interviewing, that's something that I'm also involved in. So, obviously I had that experience prior to business school. So it's nice to sort of go through that again, the interviewing.
Yeah, and definitely a good example of like lifting while you climb, right? Helping
Yes,
others that
exactly.
have
Yeah.
been that are where you are, that you once were. Anyone else want to talk about a really impactful experience, Sarah?
I would love to. This is definitely more on the, I mean, impactful. It's definitely more on the fun side of like the MBA program. I mentioned my intro. I'm part of the board that helps run this event we have at the end of the year called Blue Cup. And it is where, so UNC and Duke obviously is a big rivalry in sports. And so we compete against the Fuqua students in like this 2 week long competition. We have literally like 30 different events, everything from like flag football to like a baking competition and a spelling bee and like all, stuff that like everybody can get involved in. And so it was just, and then so I played a lot of sports in high school. Obviously haven't done it a lot in my like adult life. And so going back to like playing a bunch of sports that I played when I was younger or, and things like that was just so much fun. I also got to really get to know a lot of the second years at the time and really built a lot of relationships that way. And It was just such a great time. Like everybody came together and it was just so much like school spirit, and everyone was like so excited about every event. I'm going to watch squash one afternoon, and then like people are coming to watch. We got to play basketball in Cameron Indoor, if that is exciting. I hadn't played basketball in 10 years, and like here I am like tripping over making a layup. And so it was so much fun and had a blast. And so I'm on part of the board for that this year because there's a lot of logistics and everything's involved to make that happen because it's very, a lot of things going on with it. So that was definitely like one of my top experiences in the MBA program from a fun social perspective.
And what a great networking opportunity. Like not just the students in your program, but also all of the FUPA students as well in a social fun kind of way. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So Tyria, did you have something you want to contribute?
Yeah, so I was just going to say there's something very similar in Europe, not just the UK. It's called the MBAT. So there are business schools, MBA students from about 10 or 12 schools all travel to Paris, HEC Paris, for a weekend long sport tournament called MBAT. And it's competitive and people train for weeks. And some of us are in our 30s and some are in their 40s, and we're running and we're falling and we're getting up, and it's amazing. And after that you're just like, oh, I'm old, but it's a very good networking experience, and it's very similar. But if you're considering school not just in the UK but anywhere in Europe, probably your school would be part of like the MBAT tournament, and it's really fun.
That's awesome. And then you all afterwards could recover with ice packs on your hamstrings and your torn muscles and all of the things after the competition.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good. I'm going to let this go round robin. This is the last question I have prepared. So we'll see if this takes us to the end of time. If not, I'll jump in for a quick question. Sarah, I'm going to start with you again on this one. What do you wish someone would have told you before you started on day one?
Two things, and Mari kind of also said this already, which is don't waste your time or energy comparing yourself to others. Trust your gut and your instincts there. And then number two is you truly get out what you put into the MBA program. Like the relationships, the schoolwork, everything, every aspect of it. If you're putting a lot of effort into it, you're going to get a lot in return.
Okay. Thank you. Mari?
I have two things as well, and I have it from the perspective of a prospective student and then a current student. So starting with a prospective student, I would say like just don't, the rankings come out, and I think those are valid, like pay attention to those, but also like think about culture, think about feel, think about like if you attend prospective student events at these different schools, like do you see yourself being friends with the current students? Like is this a place that you think you could thrive in? So like the rankings are great, and definitely read those and read about the different concentrations and all the recruiting information that they give you, but also like think about the culture and the feel of it and look past some of those numbers as well. And then the second thing is when you're in the MBA program, I would just say be open. And when I say be open, I'm talking about from a lot of different perspectives. From a recruiting perspective, you may think, hey, I want to come in here and I'm going to do IB. Like, I know I'm going to do that, but maybe you didn't even know, like, hey, I might want to do like HOP consulting or something HOP that's specific to, oh, and I'm not sure, but HR consulting or something, So just being open to maybe different concentrations and different recruiting paths. Also, I think that goes along with, the different extracurricular clubs that you can be in. I'm a podcast host for our "It's a Thousand Ways to Lead" podcast that we have, and we interview different OWN alums. And I never thought I'd be comfortable to do something like that. I've gotten totally out of my comfort zone, but it's been a really great experience. And that's just me being open to doing things that, kind of doing those stretch or challenging roles. And so I think in a lot of different sense, just kind of have that exploratory mindset.
Thank you. So Tyria?
I think mine will be your journey is your own, and you have to make it your own in any way possible, and however you want to take those words, from looking for what schools to go to, what concentrations. When you get into schools, even the kind of communities you form, the type of people that you lean on, to choosing your lectures, to choosing what you do with your time. Your journey is solely your journey, and you are the only person that knows what you want.
I paused. Did we lose her for a minute? Sarah, I see you still moving, so I think that we are live. Okay, Alicia,
We
there
can hear
you're
you,
moving
Sarah.
too. Okay,
Yeah.
some of you were dead still, and I thought, oh my gosh, am I the one that's not
Yeah, I think
confused
we
here?
see
Okay,
her.
well, we'll see if she comes back and is able to continue that thought. But in the meantime, Alicia, I'll turn it to you if you wish.
Yeah, I would say, before starting, I wish someone told me to take some time for myself before starting business school. I worked pretty much up until the first week of my orientation. And so, looking back, I wish I took more time to decompress, get myself in the right mindset to be a full-time student again. And then while you're in your program, especially during your first year, really focus on your why. I know this kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of what everyone has talked about, but sort of block out the noise because it's easy to compare yourself to your fellow classmates. So, if you get really busy and overwhelmed, just, kind of go focus on your why. Something that someone had recommended to me, a mentor, was keeping a journal. And, when I was very overwhelmed or stressed, I would go back to that journal and kind of go back to the reason why I went back to school to get my MBA. So that would be something that I would advise anyone that is going back to MBA to get your MBA.
Yeah, that is great. And all of you, thank you for sharing those last tidbits in the remarks. I think a lot of common themes of join a collaborative program. It's your own journey. You have to be intentional. You'll get out of it what you wish to get out of it. Sounds like a very different experience for you all than undergrad. A lot of things are being learned outside of the classroom as you're socially interacting with others. So it's a good opportunity to kind of take care or take advantage of stepping away from the professional life for a bit and maybe making it a little bit more fun. But ultimately, picking a program that is right for you and whatever your journey might be. So on that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today, if that's okay. Panelists, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, your talent, your energy, your presence with us today. Attendees, thank you for joining us. We'll give another special shout out to Georgetown McDonough, UNC Kenan-Flagler, Vanderbilt Owen, and Manchester Alliance for their sponsorship of today's session. And if anyone has questions about Forté, the work that we're doing, if you would like to learn more about any of our programs or how to get moving on your journey toward an MBA, feel free to visit our website or email us at premba@fortefoundation.org. Our team is happy to interact with you and help support you on this journey. And again, panelists, thank you so much. I hope everyone has a great day, and thanks for spending your time with us. We'll see you all soon at some upcoming events. Bye, everyone.